Hey, what's going on guys? Ace John here. Today we're going to be going over the This Week at Bungie for October 22nd, 2020. But before we jump into things, I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel because I can keep you up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, tutorials, and leaks. But anyways, let's jump into it. This Week at Bungie, we talk story and sandbox. Before we kick this twab off, I have to ask, have you watched the new story trailer for Beyond Light yet? No? While we aren't going to dive deeply into spoiler territory between now and launch, this is the moment where we say it's time for you to go dark if you're looking for an experience with the expansion with no knowledge of what's to come. But if you're hungry for some story details, there is the Beyond Light story reveal trailer, which I did a video covering earlier this week, so I will have a link to the description down below. Anyways, moving on to the meat part of the TWAB. 110, meet 120. 2 weeks ago, we began a conversation about sandbox tuning for Beyond Light. Armor modifications are getting some hefty changes, from reloads to raids. If you missed it, check out the TWAB from October 8th. This week, we shift our focus to the weapons in your arsenal. As with our weapon mods preview, we have a collection of patch notes accompanied by developer commentary. Alright, are we ready? So, starting off with the sandbox preview, we have hand cannons. Aggressive frame hand cannons increased the rate of fire from 110 to 120. Broke out the aggressive hand cannons, allowing custom tuning of stats. For example, damage fall off for 100 range in the subfamily now starts at 32 meters. Adaptive and precision frame hand cannons. Range stat now has more impact on minimum damage fall off range for both archetypes. Damage fall off for 100 range now starts at 25 meters, originally was 20 meters. And precision hand cannons, aka the 180 rate of fire hand cannons. Magazine was scaled up by 37%. This also affects exotics with the rate of fire. And lastly, lightweight hand cannons, which have been folded into adaptive hand cannons. What this means is that they moved all the lightweight hand cannons, the 150 rate of fires, to the adaptive subfamily, which is 140 rate of fire. This also includes Luna's Howl Not Forgotten, although one exotic hand cannon will retain the 150 rate of fire, and it's Sunshot. Okay, so before we move on, I'd like to talk about this for a second. So first up, aggressive frame changes. I like these changes a lot. In my opinion, the hardest hitting hand cannon should have the most range. I'm kind of concerned with the rate of fire change because currently these aggressive frame hand cannons are kind of on par with other time to kills if you're landing all your shots. I just hope it doesn't overpower other things, but this should make the aggressive frame more forgiving with that rate of fire change. Next up, adaptive and precision changes. Now, first up with the damage fall off change, this is good. It needs a little bit of a range increase, both archetypes, but I'm kind of concerned that the 140s having the same damage fall off range as precisions is going to overpower the precisions, but we'll have to see. And then the precisions getting a magazine increase is very good. They're the fastest shooting hand cannon in the game. They go through ammo kind of quick, so this will be good. And finally, lightweights being changed into 140 adaptives. Overall, this is very good, and in my opinion was the only really real change that they could have done to differentiate 140s and 150s, which is just to convert all of one into one archetype. Although I'm not happy that they're including Luna's Howl Not Forgotten in this, because honestly, with how the Crucible has been, with the average time to kill being around like 0.7, it doesn't really make sense to have Luna's Howl Not Forgotten in this archetype anymore, and it doesn't make sense to keep Luna's Howl Not Forgotten nerfed. And with Sunshot retaining a 150 rate of fire, this is also very concerning because right now, Sunshot is a very underrated pick for Crucible. Like, people don't realize this. Sunshot is very good in Crucible, and so it keeping 150, this could make it meta, like, very fast, like in snap of a finger, dude. Like, people really don't realize how crazy Sunshot is. Like, seriously, this thing's got a bit of an AoE splash, and then on top of that, you get a kill anywhere on the body and creates a huge-ass explosion that can chain. Kind of concerning. Anyways, let's move on. Sniper rifles. Basically, all they did here was made it so the lowest zoom scopes have a large reduction in aim assist, and high zoom scopes have a very small increase to it. And honestly, this still doesn't really change the issue I have with sniper rifles, even though that was one of the main issues I had with it. One of my main issues is how flinch works with most weapons, but mainly sniper rifles. One of the big problems with how flinch works with sniper rifles is if you get hit, obviously your scope flies up in the air, but if you get hit again, you automatically gravitate to your opponent's head. So really wish they would just change that. That's a big issue that leads to very BS kills, but whatever. Next up, auto rifles. And there's only one change here. here, and that is with the adaptive frame auto rifles, and they're reducing the damage from 15.75 down to 14.25. And as a note comparison here, prior to the Season of War V buff with the adaptive frames, the damage was 13.75. So I'm okay with this change. It's not bad. I am interested to see if for 50 the slow precision frame auto rifles will at least be able to compete now, but like again, we'll have to wait and see. Next up, scout rifles. Basically all they did here was make the aim assist stat more wide, basically making it more effective. Again, as a PC user, this doesn't really affect me, so kind of sad with only a aim assist change, but they claim to state that scout rifles have a reasonable time to kill, and with the other changes we'll just have to wait and see. And to be fair, with how they've been treating sniper rifles with stating that they're too safe, I could see why they wouldn't buff scout rifles in PvE, but anyways, let's move on. And finally, for more broad changes, we have rocket launchers. And the only thing they're doing is increasing the reserves by 1 or 2 rockets depending on the inventory stat, which still doesn't really fix the issue with rocket launchers, but they state that they'll take another look at rocket launchers in a future season, so hopefully next season rocket launchers will finally get the buff they deserve. But anyways, we move on to some random general changes. First up, perks. There's only one here, and that is with Outlaw, and they're increasing the reload stat bonus from it from 50% to 70. And honestly, this is good considering Outlaw takes, extra work to earn. You have to actually get a headshot kill with it, so I really appreciate this change. Next up, Merciless. They increased the inventory stat from 36 to 55, which means they increased the reserve ammo, and that's good. I hope it's a substantial amount, because one of the biggest issues with Merciless is it just doesn't have enough ammo, so I hope this really helps it out a lot. Oh boy, Mountaintop. So basically what they did here is they reduced the splash damage by 33%, increased the impact damage by a total of 5% lower than before. They reduced the projectile velocity multiplier from the micro missile perk from 1.4 to 1.2, now 20% faster than other breach grenade launchers instead of 40. And lastly, they reduced the in-air accuracy. It now has a significant projectile error while in air around 7 degrees without Icarus Grip mod, substantially less lip. And I hope this makes Mountaintop how I sort of envisioned it when I first saw it in the game, which is a weapon with a high skill gap as compared to a weapon with no skill that you just pull out and use it like a mini rocket launcher. Falling Guillotine. What they did is they reduced the heavy attack damage by 24% to bring it in line with other swords. Although Falling Guillotine will still continue to be slightly above average, that's just not to the extent it is now. And yeah, you kinda have to admit, I mean, this sword was exotic in Destiny 1, it was Dark Drinker in Destiny 1, and copy and pasting it from Destiny 1 where, Destiny 1, it was pretty damn strong. Bring it over to Destiny 2, and it's too damn strong. Or a legendary weapon. And I honestly love this weapon a lot, so I hope in the future they just straight up bring back Dark Drinker, because I'd hate to see this weapon get sunsetted. Next up, we have the Mida mini tool, and I'm gonna be honest before I talk about this, I'm a little confused here. So basically, they state that they moved the Mida synergy trait to the intrinsic slot, similar to how the Barak version works, and that they added the following perks: Hipfire Grip and Kill Clip. And I honest to God don't know what this is implying, because currently how the season worthy version of Mida mini tool and Drain work is that its intrinsic archetype is the Mida synergy and Together Forever perks. And so I don't know what this means. They're making it how it works on the regular versions, which to me just confuses me, because both versions of Mida mini tool and Drain are getting nerfed. I forgot to go over this, but Drain is getting the exact same change too, where it's gaining 2 perks, but then its main perk is becoming the intrinsic perk on the base version from the original vanilla game, so I am very confused. But anyways, moving on, we have a very out of left field Ruinous Effigy nerf, and it's basically getting reduced damage from the aerial melee attack by 25% and significantly reducing the damage of the drain effect on enemy combatants. And all I gotta say to this is, why? Ruinous Effigy was completely fine. I assume it has to do something with a new activity, but still, why? Next up, we have Arbalest, and they made it so it no longer strikes enemy shields multiple times, but its efficiency against shielded enemies has been increased. And I hope this is by a significant amount, because one of the problems with Arbalest is its main perk is just not that good. And finally, we have Jade Rabbit. They changed the armor-piercing rounds to high-caliber rounds, and this is because there was an issue with this perk that could cause the exotic perk from not triggering. Next up, Adept Trials Weapons. So basically how Adept Weapons will differ from their base versions. Masterworking an Adept Weapon will grant additional stats. You'll get plus 10 for the primary stat as usual, and plus 3 for all alternate stats. Adept Weapons can use either a standard mod or a brand new Adept mod. Also, these Adept Weapons have a very unique shader applied to them, but you cannot acquire this unique shader at all. I don't know, that kind of makes me wonder if the flawless glows are going to play into how these Adept Weapons will look. I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on the changes with having these weird like orange splotches everywhere, but like I said, I don't know, we'll have to see. Adept Weapon mods. These mods come in two varieties. There will be weapon stat boosts, each of which grants plus 10 to a particular stat in a similar way to Masterwork stats. For example, Adept Range mod would give you plus 10 range. Then the other version of mods will grant an improved bonus, but it will come with a downside. For example, with Adept Mag, you would get a plus 40 magazine boost, but you would also get a minus 20 handling reduction, as compared to Backup Mag, which is just a standard 30 magazine boost. Acquisition. How will you get these Adept Weapons and Adept mods? Well, each week a different Adept mod can drop from the Flawless chest. Adept Weapon mods will be on a weekly rotation, so a given mod may not make its appearance till later in the season. The mod is unlocked for use on owned Adept Weapons when acquired. And Adept Weapons will be available from the Flawless chest on a bi-weekly basis, alternating with armor drops. The first Adept Weapon acquired on a given week is a Pinnacle drop. Adept Weapons will be on a set rotation, so players may continue to alternate roles on specific Adept Weapons when completing Flawless passages throughout a given week. And honestly, I don't understand why we can't just have both Adept Weapons and armor drop from the chest at the same exact time like in Destiny 1. I can tell you right now, especially on PC, going Flawless is a big pain in the ass. So only getting one Adept Weapon, which could be one of the doo-doo weapons like the Scout Rifle or the Fusion Rifle or even the Rocket Launcher, I'm a little concerned. But I guess it'll be nice for those trying to get a perfect roll with it dropping every single time. One thing they do state, where I forgot where they said it, but they state that the Adept Weapons will have the same light level as Season of the Worthy. So if you really want to grind these weapons, I'd wait till Season 13 when they're supposedly going to put out new weapons and armor, and the old weapons are going to get sunset. They also state that there's going to be no changes to the subclasses that we currently have in the game, and that's mainly because they're introducing the brand new stasis subclasses and they want to see how they interact with the community first. So we'll have to see on that one. I'm a little concerned about Spectral Blades and Top Tree Dawnblade in PvP, but we'll have to see. Next up is an update to Twitch Prime rewards, which you can get right now. First up, we have the brand new Cryptonesia Sparrow, which is actually an exclusive Sparrow to this Twitch Prime rewards. And then we have Ada 1's Lone Wolf Ship, and then we have the Peerless Precision Ghost Shell, and then we have the Flare Gun emote. So if you like any of those, you just have to link your Bungie account to your Twitch Prime account, and you'll be able to claim these in-game from Amanda Holiday. Next up is a report from the player support team. First has to do with the Interference Loop Triumph. Due to the extension of Season of Arrivals, the Knockers encounter for the Interference weekly quest will remain the remainder for the rest of the season. This means players who have missed the previous Interference encounter will be unable to access those encounters, and will be unable to claim the Interference Loop Triumph. And as much as I want to feel bad for all of you, the season was extended and you had plenty of time to complete this triumph, so I can't really feel bad for you. You had extra time. Next up is in regards to titles. Shadow, Reckoner, Blacksmith, Wayfarer, Chronicler, and Forerunner will all be disappearing on November 10th, and you have to make sure, if you unlock these, you have to make sure you at least equip them once to make sure they don't get removed. And finally, we have some currently known issues. The Convergence ornament for the Transversus Steps clips through some Warlock robes. They're investigating an issue where the Ashen Wake can cause damage to allies, and the Unbridled Enthusiasm exotic emote is not playing the audio as intended. And then we have the movies of the week, which will always be in the Twab link in the description down below if you'd like to view them for yourself. But anyways, this brings us to the end of the Twab. But before we go, we got some little extra things to cover here at the end. First up is in regards to this puzzle looking thing on the side of this Beyond Light poster. Yeah, apparently this maze looking thing is not a puzzle and is just a artifact caused by the compression of the image, and this is confirmed by Cosmo, a Bungie community manager on Reddit. I feel very bad for Raid Secrets. They were jumping on that. Next up, we have 3 emblems available to everyone. Everyone can get these emblems. All you have to do is put in the 3 codes displayed on the screen, and you'll be able to claim these emblems when Beyond Light launches. And lastly, DMG4 went on to say on Twitter that next week's Twab is going to be centered around economy and progression, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, that pretty much wraps up the video. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give me a like. If you'd like to see more of my content, go ahead and subscribe. And if you'd like to see more of me outside of YouTube, I got a Twitter and a Twitch link down below where I do non-Destiny things sometimes. So yeah, this was John, and I'll see ya in the next one. Peace.